Hello, my name is Miguel Resendiz. I'm a marketing professional, entrepreneur, and the host of this podcast, Midcast, a program where we discuss how to monetize your talent, ideas, and show examples of people who have successfully done so in the past. In this podcast, we aim to bring the best business and life insights to help you materialize your goals. An open mind will go a long way in this program, so fasten your seatbelts and get ready for the show. Today, I have the pleasure to talk to a lecturer from UBC and SFU in finance, as well as the director of learning at financetraining.ca. So how are you, Mr. Emrul Hasan?
Hey, Miguel, really good. And it's good to meet and talk to one of my ex-students once again. And I'm doing good. Everything is fine. It's closer to the Christmas, and hopefully this whole COVID-19 is over by next year.
Yeah, I really hope so. So I know you're not a public figure yet. You probably will be at some point soon. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? Who are you, and how did you make it to be a director of learning in Canada, or a lecturer in one of the best universities of Canada?
Yeah, so I came to Canada in 2009 from Bangladesh, from the city of Dhaka. I did my undergrad over there in finance and economics. Then I came here to do my master's at York University, Toronto. Okay. So after that master's, I thought, you know what, teaching is something that I'm really passionate. I like it because before that, I used to work in investment banks while I was doing my undergrad and after my undergrad. And I also have a CFA, so it made it easier to work in investment banking. But then I saw,
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you work in investment banking in Bangladesh or in here?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I still do a lot of consulting here and there, but those are all on through my own personal consulting. Okay. And because I don't have a lot of time after teaching economics, finance, as well as CFA courses, right? So then I came to Canada. After coming to Canada, I did my master's, and then I decided to do my PhD in finance from SFU because I wanted to get into teaching. So while doing my PhD, I was teaching at SFU for almost 2-3 years as a sessional, mostly investments and corporate finance courses. But now I joined UBC as a lecturer of economics, and I teach a lot of, we do, of course, include a lot of finance and econ courses together, but it's primarily macroeconomics and financial economics.
So when I hear that you're all about economics and finance, and I did take an economics course with you, and I think it was one of the hardest courses in my degree. So it was, but it was oddly satisfying when I was doing the course because you were really good at bringing this knowledge back to our daily life. I remember one of the exams. In one of the exams, you made a question about church's chicken, and it was something that we could visualize. We were like, okay, this church's chicken, and then on the other hand, I have to solve one of their problems with this, like this economic theory, and then apply some calculus on top of that.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's something I was not expecting from a professor at SFU. But at the same time, it really allowed me to visualize how it will help. And once you visualize how it will help the daily person, or like the normal person, then you become aware of how useful this is. And I feel every time I took, like, for example, Business 312, which is financial, just like regular finance, I think. I forgot the exact name. Yeah. So that one, I remember we were kind of struggling to see the use of it, except for the mortgage calculation part of it. But most of the other calculations, we were like, it's kind of weird, and we didn't really get why it would be useful. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people, not only with this content, but also with math and other content that's kind of analytical and quantitative. So do you have like a theory or anything on why people stay away from these topics, and then they just want to take maybe qualitative courses or qualitative careers?
Yeah, I mean, this is a kind of a situation I was in too as a student. When I first came to Canada, I was very um, honored and lucky to have some finance prof back home in Bangladesh. I should even mention the name. He's Zunaid Khan and then Tashfin. These are amazing teachers back home. So what they always used to teach us from practical perspective, you know. And I found those courses really interesting because look, the theories are dry, very, very dry if you look at finance and econ theory. And if you don't show the students how these are applied in real life, they're very less motivated. So I see the student comment evaluation, and thank you so much for mentioning this too. They mention this, Emrul goes over practical stuff, day-to-day stuff in a life. At the same time, we cannot be harsh to any professors because look, we only have 12 weeks to finish a course, right?
Yeah.
So it's difficult for teachers to implement both practical and theoretical stuff in a course. But I think that courses should have a practical component going forward. And that's another way we can make people interested. But at the same time, look, in big universities, like let me give you a difference between big universities versus small colleges or small universities, right?
Okay.
So in a big university, what I know that the focus is always on theory,
Okay.
so because they expect our undergrad to do a master's, and some of them to do masters, some of them will become a PhD student, you know what I mean? And they become a researcher later. So you cannot tone the quality down to practical only, because even though this is kind of harsh to majority of the student,
Yeah.
even though majority of the student will go into the industry and work there, not going to be a teacher or academic, but you cannot really tone the topic down. You have to still teach theoretical way in those big universities. But in small colleges, I used to teach in Douglas College, BCIT, and so many other colleges. I saw the learning is more practical in those colleges because they are preparing students for the industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I saw that too. I remember you mentioned it actually, that the courses in BCIT were a bit tougher. I mean, the same course, the same course that we were taking, you were teaching also in BCIT, and you said, look, these guys are doing a lot more than you guys are doing, and that's just the nature of the college, right? That's just how it works there. And I found that really inspiring, because then I even took an internship in Germany, and we were hiring engineers and all of that. And we had a preference for SFU engineers for some reason, but then when I was doing the recruiting, I was like, no, we should go for BCAT people, because these guys are doing more practical stuff, right?
More hands-on, yeah.
And then I did communicate with BCIT, but they didn't have anyone at the moment. So then we didn't end up hiring any interns from there. But at the same time, I always found it fascinating how these colleges are preparing people to the to the industry. And to one extent, I think you're right. Universities do focus more in theory, but so what do you think is, I mean, as a teacher, have you tried to change a little bit the status quo, or is there?
No, I would personally would never change it. I would just, the reason being, because if you also look at the universities, they also recruit the top tier students. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I have to rank students from best to worst, top universities actually take the best crop of a student. So even though, like, think about you, Miguel, even though you've learned theories mostly, but now, right now, because you're smart enough, you've learned so many things by yourself, and you're now applying them in real world. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't change it. But at the same time, I can't talk about other teachers, but I would always like to add some practical component, either through case studies or maybe through smart questions or maybe software, a component at least, let's say, in my courses, right? But at the same time, I don't want to change this setting in the universities because I know exactly why they're doing it.
Yeah. The reason makes sense right now, but I still face that concern that people are not paying enough attention, or they don't really know that this is important content. And even if we go to the most basic part of education, right? Like math, for example, everybody has math since grade 1, and everybody says, look, I mean, even this is even encouraged by the parents. Even my dad told me, look, I haven't done a root square since I finished school. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, you haven't, right? But
Yeah.
right now, I think most people will need to know how to how to apply calculus, especially if you're going into like any sort of technical university or technical career.
Yeah.
I did begin my marketing degree because I was kind of afraid of math.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, this is gonna take me away from math. But then as I learned math at SFU a bit more, I actually joined the Math Student Union for a while,
Yeah.
and I became I became more knowledgeable, and
Yeah.
I kind of found the passion for it. So then I started taking more stats courses and to be able to create better segments and just more practical stuff. And then
Yeah.
you realize there is a use for it. But
Yeah.
if you don't, my entire point here is if you don't realize the use, I think the students will be less motivated to do it. And that's a big that's just a big concern. Maybe there should be some modification there. Hopefully the universities, evolve
Yeah,
as
they're actually evolving. They're actually evolving. And I am in a curriculum committee at UBC of econometrics.
okay.
We recommended this in our memo that, you know what, things have changed significantly. The world is moving towards machine learning, big data, and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We can't really just keep teaching people theory. We need to implement some practical aspect to every different course. So schools are definitely changing.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to explain why universities are more theory focused versus colleges. But at the same time, I understand if I'm a student and if I only learn theory in a course, most students are not going to be motivated by this, right? They need to see right at the beginning of the course, like how it's applied in the real life, or maybe throughout the course, and then they will be more motivated to come to school and in the classroom and then participate, right?
For sure. And this brings me to yet another important topic. And this kind of, I mean, I have been approached by so-called finance experts recently, and they and they're younger than me, right? They're usually like 20, 22 years old, or some people around my age, right? 25, 26. And these guys oftentimes tell me, look, finance is not hard. I'm gonna teach you and I'm gonna coach you. And,
oh my goodness, yes.
and then I'm gonna help you make good investments. I'm gonna teach you what financial literacy is. And look, I'm the kind of guy that really likes to give the chance to people. I oftentimes give them an ear for a bit. But then as soon as they bring up Robert Kiyosaki, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He wrote a book, Poor Dad, Rich Dad, or something like that.
Yeah, I know.
And then they say, look, what school taught us about assets and liabilities, all of that stuff is wrong. Let me teach you about how it works. And then I'm like, what? And then they kind of try to redefine the meaning of things. And then they try to tell you a very simplistic theory of how to become a millionaire in the next 5 years, right?
Yes. So, Miguel, I can talk about this for hours. You know what I mean? And for hours. And first of all, two suggestions. One is, I stay away from these people, right? But you're doing the right thing. What I do when I first came to Canada, because as an international student, it was difficult to find a job for me, right? I was still looking for some part-time job while I was doing my master's.
Yeah.
So people approach me like this too. I'm not going to mention the company names, but they approach me, hey, can you be a financial advisor for us? It's basically they're teaching us random stuff, and we have to go and sell to starting with our family and then friends and other people, like selling insurance or maybe selling investment products that those people have no clue, but we do have clue what's happening, right? So I would say still listen to them, at least know the industries, but don't really make them run your money, which I'm going to come back to it later about how you can take control of your own finance, right? So don't let other people run your money like this, and because they aren't commission out of it, you understand this. And not always all of them have the best interest for you. So and the other thing is, this is kind of sound very weird because no professor will probably tell you this. It's I actually do not read a lot of books, right? I read the books like if I need to. For example, let's say a textbook where I have a lot of theory and practical stuff. You know, like I teach econometrics at UBC. Of course, I read books, but it's mostly what I'm trying to say. Look, I wish I could show you now. In my shelf behind me, I do have a book called Blue Strategy, How to Make Money Faster. I get all of this for free. You know what I mean? Right? And also look at this. $1 trillion psychology of money. They're best New York bestsellers. But you know what? If I'm being completely honest with you, I've never even opened them, even for once.
And who
the
gets
reason
it
is the reason is, Miguel, the thing is that of course we learn by looking at successful people. The guy who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad book, right? I've gone through the profile anyway. So look, people who make money, let's say from trading, suddenly you'll see, I even know people who started with $10,000 in the stock market and made 4 million in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Right? It happens, but how many people are able to do this? You got to understand this, right?
Yeah.
So it's not even 1% people. And when you read these stories and you kind of have a tendency of follow their life, what they have done, but everyone's life is different, you know?
And it
I
is
learned,
case. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. So what I learned mostly from my own life, to be honest, like what I've still recommend people, you need to have some sort of no matter what your background is, you should have basic finance knowledge. This is why I teach CFA. And that's my favorite course to teach, to be honest. You know, I'm not asking people to become a CFA. That's a different story. If you are a finance major or econ major, you really want to get into investment banking, you should do CFA, no doubt. But I don't even tell people to do CFA. I tell people to do at least CFA level 1. So you learn the comprehension and the basic concept of finance. So even if your money is handled by big banks like TD, RBC, you know exactly what they're doing with your money. You're more educated then.
Yeah. So I remember when I opened my TFSA account.
Yeah.
So they put me with this guy from Scotiabank.
Yeah.
Then he was, he was telling me, yeah, well, this is the future value that you could get. They're very conservative, so they're not really trying to sell you on anything that's kind of crazy. But they tell you, yeah, this is the value that you may be able to get.
Yeah.
And well, he was telling me that, like, he was giving me the numbers, and I was plugging the future value formula on a piece of paper, and I was like doing the calculations. And the guy was a bit scared because like these formulas, once you start putting the values in, they can get quite complicated, right?
It is. And look, if you have to go, look, my money is also managed by banks because I'm more of a passive investor.
Okay.
Right. I do have investment in some private placement. I do have investment in real estate and other things. But a lot of quite a bit of money is actually handled by mutual funds. Right. Yeah. So you can actually do those for big banks because they're more conservative. They have more educated financial advisors. Yeah. They're paid salary. You know what I mean? Not only commission, also salary.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about, you know what I mean, right? I'm talking about those finance experts. They think they have done nothing in their life in terms of finance, just did a certificate. That's it. Are able to sell the product to you. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
They don't necessarily have your best interest in mind, but mutual funds are different. As long as you do, like, you know exactly what they are. And this is what I'm talking about, Miguel. You did the right thing. You're sitting there, you know exactly. They have every information online. You go, you can find out all the Scotiabank's mutual fund and go over them and which one fits your profile the best and tell them, you know what, I want to buy this.
Yeah. And I agree with you in that. And this is one of the things that I'm still kind of concerned though. And like I would like to ask maybe for your advice. How do you spot the professionals or like the people that kind of have your I mean, nobody will have your best interests other than you, right? But who has this professional attitude towards selling you these financial products, and who has this scammy kind of attitude towards getting you into the products? What are the key points that we should look into to figure out if they're trying to just sell us some garbage mutual fund? How do you say that? How do you find that out?
Okay. So first of all, I would like to again reiterate this. Look, most people probably have the good intention. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are few people they don't have the good intention, right? They just don't really even know the product that they're selling it to you,
Yeah.
right? So for that, what I would say, I would ask for more information. For example, most mutual funds need to have detailed performance report for the last they for the last 10 years and 5 to 10 years, and they even will are supposed to tell you exactly where they're investing. You know what I mean? Exactly, let's say 60% equity and 40% fixed income, and within the equity, what kind of equity? You know what I mean?
Okay.
Which companies they're investing, right? For example, when I knew at the beginning of COVID-19 that I knew the tech industry is going to do well, it's obvious, right? So
Yeah.
what I did, instead of just buying tech industries individually, I went and bought a tech focused mutual fund. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
So I can actually download the PDF and see exactly which companies they're investing, and it's more diversified versus just investing on only one company. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right?
I get that a lot. And so
Okay.
when I have actually been managing my own portfolio for a while,
Yeah.
and I feel, honestly, I don't feel comfortable buying trust funds and stuff,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
because I feel that, I mean, they're basically choosing a portfolio. Probably a very professional financial analyst is doing that,
Yeah.
but I'm always the kind of person that likes to know
What's
why
happening?
I'm
Yeah.
putting this money in
Yeah.
here, and also I like to buy individual stocks and
Yeah.
kind of manage it on my own.
Yeah. At
That's
your age, I've done this, right? I
Mhm,
used to do this when I was at your stage. You
mhm,
know, it's all about the way I explain this to my students. They often ask me this question: what they should invest, right? So I
mhm,
tell them, let's say most of my CFA level 1 students or my undergrad students who are in their second, third year or fourth year, I always tell them, you know what, you should trade. I don't, but you
mhm.
should, because you should at least learn what's happening, because you have lower opportunity cost. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But think about me. I rather work that extra hour in a consulting project and make more money. You know what I mean?
for
So,
sure.
and it makes no sense for me to do an active investment, because some of my friends do active investment, which is like trading. You have to
Yeah,
wake up early in the morning and then look at the market. You are going to get anxiety or whatever, what's happening to the market. I don't want to do that. I rather hire a very professional portfolio manager. And by the way, every big bank, their portfolio managers are most likely to be a full CFA. You know what I mean?
mhm,
So they know what they're doing, right? So
yeah,
at least I'm okay to pay the fee, but at least and it's very diversified too. So I'm telling you that my suggestion is not for everyone, right? So
yeah,
it depends on at which stage of your life you are. If you're a student and very early in your career, like you, Miguel, you're very, very early in your career now, you should definitely do trading by yourself, you
yeah.
know? Otherwise, how would you learn? Because I always believe if you do not invest your money on something, you're not going to learn that.
Yeah. And yeah, like I learned a lot. Especially, I think the most difficult thing that I had to learn by investing on my own
Yeah.
is patience.
Yeah.
Because I in 2018 I bought Apple stock at $220, $220.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, that seems to be a good price. It probably will go up. The rate, it was going up by a very good rate
Yeah.
for the past 2 years. So I was
Yeah.
just expecting the same. And then, like 2 weeks later, it dropped like 20 or 30%. I was
Mm.
like, what?
Mm.
And then it just kept going down. And all of my friends were telling me, sell it, sell it, sell it.
Sell it.
Apple's
Yeah.
gonna go bankrupt. And
Yeah.
everybody wants Apple to go bankrupt for some reason.
Yeah.
I think. And I always remember, look, it is not lost money until you sell it, until
Yeah.
you realize the loss.
Yeah.
So just keep it there. And eventually I made like 50% on that investment, right?
Return. Yeah. So this is exactly what I was trying to say, Miguel, right? So
Yeah.
because you will be anxious, people will tell you shit, and you'll be
Yeah.
always anxious about your portfolio
Yeah.
because it's run by only you,
Yeah.
right? So it happened to me too in 2016, 17, but it's a long story, right? When I used to trade, I stopped trading since 2018. But just to give you an idea, During that time when the tech boom happened, I invested in one of the mutual fund. I'm not going to mention which one. It gave me about 40% in 2 years because the tech industry was booming, right? So it's probably less than what active trader will make, but at the same time, I will spend no time on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At zero time, just invested on the fund and just let the portfolio manager to run this.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And so like this was basically one of my first questions, or one of the most interesting questions I had for today, which is how do we, like, students, or maybe not even like students, people who did not even go to university, right? How do they start to plan for their future? Because I see a lot of people, instead of accruing interest on their savings, they're accruing interest on their debt. And it is, I mean, there's a debt epidemic in America, and I think
it is.
in Canada has probably also a debt epidemic, just less significant than in the US. So how do we start to manage our money, and what resources would you give us for, or would you suggest, referring to?
Let me give you statistics on this. You will probably get surprised, or you probably already know this. In average, Canadians are only $200 to $300 away from bankruptcy. That means if they spend on average $300 more a year, they have to declare bankruptcy.
Wow.
This is how much debt or personal debt we have accumulated over the years, and COVID-19 not helped, right? It's gonna increase even further. So my answer, and I actually did another interview with UBC a month ago about this, and I took an old school approach here, right? I'm going to suggest an old school approach, how to take control of your own money. So my number one suggestion is try to delay instant gratification. Number one, I mean, this is so important. For example, let's say you are in a third year or fourth year, a student. You know that your parents or you can buy the car, but you have to think, do I really need this expensive car, or I can just buy something cheaper with cash? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd rather save the money so that I can pay some sort of a down payment when I get my job and a couple of years, because bank will look at your last 2 years income, right? When they approve a loan. And things are, look, after COVID-19, a lot of people are going to work from home. So even if you, and industry have changed, a lot of jobs are going to be only from home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can go, you don't have to buy a house in Surrey or Vancouver. You can go to Abbotsford. One of my friends just bought a house there. Believe me or not, 2-bedroom, $230,000 only. Right?
Yeah.
So you could still do this with only 2-3 years of work. The only thing needed is the down payment, and you could easily save this over the year. So you have to ask yourself those questions. Like nowadays is so easy. And I'm also a culprit of this. I go to Amazon, I have a Prime account, I click it comes the next day. You know what I mean? So we have to somehow delay those instant gratification as much as we can. Number one. Second suggestion that I have is self-control, which is connected to number one, of course, right? Don't let other people control your finance, or other people to control your emotions or anything. You take your own decision.
Yeah.
Right? And you take control of your own money by learning things by yourself. There are so many online financial literacy courses, numerous. Some of them are paid, a fee is so low. Some of them for very reputed universities. You can learn so many things about personal finance that a lot of people don't even have to go to school and do actually a finance major anymore.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're dedicated and disciplined, you'll probably be able to learn a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
that's my suggestion. It's very old school suggestion, but that's exactly what's gonna work. That's exactly what's how we can take our kids and other people away from this high load of debt.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, I know a lot of students who have a lot of student debt, right? And that seems to really stagnate the careers of a lot of people, because they just take whatever whatever shitty job comes their way, at first, and really just makes their careers driven mostly by the need of paying this debt that was accrued before they even were able to work, and a lot of people justify this debt as a good thing because they say, well, you're getting a degree from here.
It's a vicious cycle, right? Because you see everyone else is doing it. Think about this. Let's say I had this problem too. Believe me or not, I'm not sure if I should tell you this, but it's fine, I guess, because I'm on the flow now. Okay. So when I first came to BC, let's say, I did have other friends. I'm not going to mention the name or anything. They are always buying expensive stuff. You know what I mean? So I was socially pressured too to buy things and to match up with them. You know what I mean? Then I realized they're buying all of this with credit card. They have 6, 7 credit card. They pay with one of them, and then they repay that credit card with another one. This is called I forgot the word, but anyway, by paying revolving, like paying from one credit card with another one, and keep adding up interest 30-40%, right? At least one of them, again, not gonna mention the name, actually just filed bankruptcy and left the country. Left Canada because they don't have to pay this money anymore. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So at the same time, look at me. After these 4 or 5 years, I'm doing pretty good. Like by the grace of God, I'm doing very, very good because I've managed to do those delaying of instant gratification, right?
Yeah.
I felt bad. This is the problem, right? When you're third year or fourth year students, you kind of have to maintain your social life with other kids or other students when they're spending a lot of money using credit card. Or their parents, you kind of have to start also spending your own money. But I'm just recommending people not to do this.
Yeah, I had that same situation where sometimes you're like, okay, well, these people are buying expensive clothes or expensive phones and computers or whatever. But I think I had a smart strategy for this because I was working during my degree, and I said, look, I'm gonna use 10% of this money what I work, and then just basically use it for indulge a little bit. And then I realized, look, you don't really need expensive clothes to look like you're dressing expensive.
No.
And basically just design a wardrobe that will work in many different ways, and it will look really cool at all times. But it wasn't expensive, right? And it wasn't a lot of clothes. It was basically I had maybe 5 t-shirts or 5 shirts, and then 3 pants.
You can wear them many different ways. If you look at the permutation combination, look, Miguel, this is exactly where math can also help you. You can find out how many ways you can match up these two things. You know what I mean?
And then in Vancouver, if you dress black, black is the thing that works with everything, right?
Oh my goodness, yeah. So you just took the word away from my mouth pretty much. So look, Warren Buffett said something like, he buys luxury too. I buy luxury too, but only when they're cheaper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is kind of, I know it's going to sound weird too. I have 6 pieces of trousers, and they're very specialized. Trousers is very difficult to find in the shop. Okay. I think the company, I'm not going to mention, the company stopped producing those. I have to really hard time to find those. Okay. You can wear them when you're playing cricket, soccer, or while I'm wearing this right now, teaching or interviewing, or even in a big party with suit, or let's say in a conference or seminar. So comfy, but I'm only going to go with that. I have 6 of those. And do you know what I buy my t-shirts from? Walmart. Don't you think I can afford like whatever other companies? I can, but what's the point?
Yeah, like unless you really, I think once you taste, for example, or not taste, but I think once you feel the texture of like a shirt from, I don't know,
whatever company,
or whatever company, you kind of feel like, oh yeah, I can see the quality, and obviously the quality is much better. But I always try to go for the sweet spot, not too low, not too high.
Exactly.
And be like, okay, this is what will last the longest, and will still provide the value that I'm looking for.
And look, wait for the discount. What I'm doing, I have a list that I gotta buy. I write them down. the things I need to buy, and I wait for Boxing Day.
Okay, yeah, well, that's perfect. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
everybody should do.
Look, you can buy a Reebok trouser that is normally $60
Uh-huh.
for $30 on a Boxing Day. This is called self-control and delaying instant gratification. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
because you're still indulging on what you want, but
Correct.
you're doing it in the smartest
Yeah.
way possible.
I never said don't live your life. I said delaying instant gratification. You should still get the gratification, but delay it a little bit so you can
Yeah,
get that thing cheaper.
for sure. And also, I mean, if you have debt,
Yeah,
that should be the first thing that you're trying to pay, right?
exactly. Exactly.
Um, Now we have demonized debt a lot, but one of the things that I learned in finance is that if you use debt in smart way, then you can use it to your advantage and like create even more wealth. And
Yep.
and it seems like this is the case for a lot of people. I mean, even Donald Trump has said that he had a lot of debt at some point. And he says he's a billionaire, right?
Yeah.
So now, how do we take advantage of debt, especially if we're just students? Like, is there a
Yeah.
possibility for us
Yeah.
to hedge our debt?
First of all, as a student, it's all about high interest versus low interest debt,
Okay.
right? What students are exposed to is high interest debt, which is credit card, like 21% or 20% interest,
Hmm.
right? I can give you a very straightforward, again, finance answer. The only way you should use debt to enhance your return if your return of the investment is greater than the cost of debt. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So let's say if your debt is 21%,
Yeah.
the 21% money, whatever debt you're using for investment, that investment should give you a return of more than 21%. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Only then you can get richer, or you can get a good sense out of, or good value out of that debt by investing it. But
Mhm.
tell me how many investment in Canada or in US that provides you more than 21% return?
Very few.
None.
Yeah. No.
Almost non-existent, right?
Yeah.
So that's why the students should never use debt, because look, students don't have enough credit history to get cheap debt. For example,
Mhm.
right now I have enough credit history. Like if I can get a home equity loan against my house, I can get the loan for 2%. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Hmm.
Because it's a covered loan, and then I can use that 2% to invest in some business that is going to give me 8 to 10% return, maybe a restaurant or something. Then it's okay. Then your debt can keep making you money. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that makes sense. So, like,
Yeah,
but yeah, so like you buy assets that eventually will give you more than.
exactly. It
Yeah.
also gives you the tax shield. So finance theory is not wrong over there. The problem is how much debt you should have in the investment,
Yeah.
right? So after a certain level, you'll get to then the cost of debt will be a burden for you. So what I would say, some debt, again, for investment purposes, I'm not talking about personal life anymore. That's done. For
Mhm.
investment purposes, let's say you want to become an entrepreneur. At the
Mhm.
beginning, you should try to get some debt at least. You know, so
Yeah.
some debt is better than no debt. It's true
Okay.
in real life and also in finance
Hmm.
theory.
Yeah,
But at the same time, you should not overburden yourself with too much debt. Then you're going to be very close to bankruptcy.
for sure.
Yeah.
And one of the things I wanted to kind of ask you regarding debt, and
Yeah.
like, so like, just how long does it take, for example, to get I don't know, let's say that you're a student and then you have very bad credit, right?
Hmm.
how,
Yes.
how how long does it take to get or to fix your credit?
Yeah. That's another good point, man. I did not talk about this. What the students should do, the reason they should not use a lot of credit card, because you'll screw up your debt, credit rating. You know,
Hmm.
credit rating is the first thing that banks look at before they want to give you the loan. And
Yeah.
then they look at other things. Do you have a stable income or a stuff? But
Hmm.
as a student, it's almost impossible to have a good credit rating, even if you do not screw up your finances, right?
Hmm.
Because you don't have enough history, you don't have enough background of using a card or maybe using any other financial account, you know? So
Yeah.
it's extremely difficult. What I would say, if a third or fourth year students wants to really open a business with friends or whatever, they can always look for some government funding, or maybe some private funding, or some non-profit organization funding. They fund good business project by young students.
Yeah.
right?
So
Nowadays, SFA and UBC have their own entrepreneur
yeah.
sections too, right?
Yeah, venture connection, I think, is for
Yeah,
SFA.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. But again, I wanna visit the point. Is it easy to fix your credit score once you, for example, screw it up, or does it take like years? Like
It takes years.
it
It
takes
takes
years.
years, but it's fixable. I've seen people fixing it.
Perfect. So, and do you, for example, when you're doing your CFA training, do you
Yeah.
train people in how to do that kind of stuff, or do you train them in the more general scope of finance?
No, we don't. So when I teach CFA, so of course we prepare the student for the CFA exam.
Yeah.
Right. None of that talks about credit rating, to be honest, because one thing I think where CFA is a bit lacking, I won't say lacking. The reason is CFA is more focused in portfolio management for
Okay.
other people, not
Mhm.
mostly for your own personal finance. You know what I mean? But if
Okay.
you take an online course on personal finance, and which I'm planning to develop one, to be honest, very soon. I'm thinking of developing one where it would teach you what things you can do to improve your credit rating. The first thing I would tell everyone to Google this: what goes into calculating your credit rating, right? And then it will give you some suggestions how to improve it, such as should not have a lot of credit card. And even if you have, try to use only one credit card for every transaction and do not cancel it, because that credit card is building your credit history. You know, so for example, I had one credit card since 2010, same card. I've just keep changing it. You know what I mean? But I have only one card, one company, and then I have other cards too. But that card I never canceled because it is building my history. And then never always put a calendar on to make sure you pay your bills on time, so that it doesn't trigger a credit limit or whatever credit event. So I'm just give you two suggestions, but there are many other ways you can improve those. And a lot of financial personal finance, that's the word, personal finance course that people can take online to learn about this.
There is a course in SFU for personal finance, right?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't seen that because when I was teaching there full time, I did not see that course, but I heard they had opened a new one.
Okay. So there is another question I wanted to ask you, and I know you probably, I mean, you're well versed in this world of finance, but I see a lot of people oftentimes bring in really like hate on capitalism. Do you share that feeling too?
This is difficult to answer because I'm right in the middle, you know, of socialism versus capitalism. What I do, Mikkel, you probably know me for several years now, right? One thing I always recommend everyone, and I keep doing this to help others. You know what I mean? Always help others and make sure people who are not doing well like you try to pull them up. You know what I mean? By giving them more and more and more. But if the question is that, do I think that everyone should be provided same kind of benefit versus everyone should be provided with same kind of taxes and stuff, right? I have no answer to this, to be honest, because I'm not a huge fan of this progressive tax system in Canada anyway. You know what I mean? Because it kind of hurts your productivity, right? So because it's, look, not everyone is coming from very, very wealthy background. Of course, wealth makes more wealth, no doubt. You know what I mean? Right? As long as you're smart, you can use that money that your parent gave you to build more wealth. I came from a lower middle class family in Bangladesh. You know what I mean? When I first came to Canada, I came with only $2,000, I believe. That's all my dad could give me. You know what I mean? Then I told him, Dad, when I finish my master's, I'll give you the money back. I did. You know, right after I came, look, I finished my master's, I still had 2,000 left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somehow from here and there. But since then, I've worked super duper hard to come to this position to pay a 45% taxes right now. You know what I mean? I'm okay to pay this because as long as I know the money is going to help poor people, not going back to the wealthy people again. You know what I mean? So no matter how I want to word this, if you're a finance or econ prof, you're most likely to be a capitalist anyway, right? but I'm kind of in the middle. Capitalism is not always bad. Socialism, I mean, pure 100% socialism is a beautiful idea. I really appreciate this. I even force this, right? I even force this to a lot of my comments and here and there in Facebook and other places. But it's a very beautiful idea, but very difficult to implement in a world you want to enhance people's productivity and other things. You know what I mean?
Why is it difficult to implement? Is it for the human drivers to?
It is a human drivers for selfishness, to be honest. Right?
Yeah, so like capitalism takes as the main assumption that humans are selfish. Isn't that correct?
Exactly. I completely agree. Right, and people are. This is the number one theory of economics anyway, that we are all selfish. You know what I mean?
And like, look, I said that once to someone, and they are like, well, don't think that everybody is like you.
yeah, exactly. So look, this is what I do then. So for example, I'm okay to pay 45% of my income as taxes, right?
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that money is going to the people who need the most.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's a beautiful idea and concept, and it's doable. But I don't think different governments in the whole around the world are able to do this. A lot of our money actually goes towards very expensive administrative expenses. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
let's say, yeah.
There is a lot of there are a lot of government officials that earn a lot of money, right? Like $300,000 and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's really expensive, right? But at the same time, we need to wonder whether their education is merit. Provides that.
These are the two things I'm really passionate about, and I really push. Number one thing that I'm very, very passionate about, and I also think I'm a little bit of, not little bit, I'm almost 90% a feminist. You know.
Yeah, well, so, I think I'm a feminist.
I'm a full feminist. This is number one thing I always push: woman empowerment and female empowerment and all this. So, and the second thing I try to push is to do that, not exactly socialism, because I know that in reality it's going to be difficult because most people are selfish, right?
Yeah.
It's a theory. In theory, it's beautiful. But I try to push as much as I can, like by donating here and there. And what I try to do, I try to apply, again, economics concept there. I think you've learned this in economics too, Miguel, that where do you think the capital will have the highest return where you have less capital? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's say if you have $100,000, should you give the $100,000 donation to a country like in Africa versus Canada? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
the $100 will have more impact in Africa, wouldn't it?
Exactly. So that's called, where the capital is less, the return of the capital is higher over there. So this is what I try to implement. So I donate a lot of money back home in Bangladesh. I do donate here too, here and there, the causes and things that I think are very, very important, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what we'd rather do, we should try to push more and more people, let's say people who have billions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Right? They earn millions and billions, to push them, to give them incentive to do more for the society.
Yeah. So like, what incentives will that be?
There are many incentives that I'm really huge fan of. For example, donations, a lot of the donations are tax deductible.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I'm not asking people to tax them high and take the money, but I also don't mind to tax the richest 1% or 2% maybe, because that's too much money you can handle.
Yeah, like, right? I mean, this money will serve you for generations, right?
Exactly. Let's say if I'm talking about the richest 1%, I'm talking about super billionaires. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if you take like 2% extra tax from them, I don't think it's going to scratch them even a little bit. You know what I mean? That I'm I'm just not a huge fan of progressive taxing, where people who are making 100,000 or 150,000 maybe, especially in cities in Vancouver, where it's very, very difficult to live even with $100,000 income in the family.
Okay, so that and I agree with you with that part.
Yeah.
So one question I had, and this goes back to your comment that you're a feminist, right?
Yeah.
So there is in the business world and also in the financial world, we see that the women are paid less than men. And I have always, I mean, I heard some people say it is a myth. I heard some people it is 100% reality. So I honestly, for me, I'm kind of data driven. and I haven't really done my research. I did some research actually for a business class, but I haven't really seen proof that says it is a lie, and I haven't seen proof that it is true. And honestly, I'm just gonna in these arguments, I tend to not engage just because I don't know. So do you have any insight as to whether?
Yes, a lot of them. And look, you know what, Miguel, you don't even have to do a research on this, and I haven't too. No reason. The reason is I can see with my clear eyes that women are seriously disadvantaged in most professions they're working on, right? If I can see that, I feel that I came from a country is a very, very unequal country, right? Even in Canada, there is no way that women aren't same as men in the same profession, right? And there are so many papers I can also share with you where it proves that women, there is a salary discrimination, but not even in salary. In terms of other things in life, they are discriminated heavily, like respect in the society and so many other things, right? Strength, respect, so many other things. And look, at the same time, I believe that women and men have different set of skill set, different kinds of skill set, right? The stuff that women are good at, men are probably not. The stuff that some men are good at, in those positions, women would not be good because they have a lot of limitations that how God built them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So this is why, I mean, when people say, hey, how many, this is kind of completely bullshit when one guy was trying to kill feminism. You know what I mean? It was about 5-6 years ago I saw, and at that moment I wasn't a feminist. I'm a recent feminist for the last 3-4 years. So that guy was trying to kill feminism by saying, oh, how many men dies in war and versus how many women dies in war. By the way, women don't even go to war. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So that's not even a comparison that we should look at, because that's not any skill set that women have. Because women have empathy that men don't. You know what I mean? Women have other skill set. For example, I think every single company in the world should have a woman leader. Every single country in this world should have a woman leader. Then the world will change. If you can do that, that beautiful dream about socialism is completely possible.
So, like, you think socialism is driven by the macro and not by the micro? Because
it's micro too. It's micro too, right? I just try to connect both of them, because you've got to understand this. Who are on average less selfish versus men and women? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, like clearly females are more able to they're more empathetic, and they try to, I mean, they have this instinct to take care of what they are in charge of, right? And clearly you can see a home that has 2 guys tends to be a lot messier than a home that has 2 girls, right?
Exactly. So unless one of the guy is also a little bit feminist too, you know what I mean? So you never know. But you're 100% right. We both agree on that. And I can see that women are seriously disadvantaged all over the world. And we need to do more. This is a very proud to also announce that what CFA Institute recently did, they have acquired a parity into their board of directors, right? It's 50% women, 50% male. But unfortunately, only 37% of the candidate who write CFA exam are women, right? We have to up this. In investment world, we hardly see women nowadays, right? The numbers are increasing, but it's not a parity yet. It's not 50-50 yet.
So, I mean, there are countries that have had female leaders for a while. And and there are countries that haven't had female leaders for a long time. And we haven't, for example, we have seen England who had, Margaret Thatcher, right? And then they had recently another one. What was her name? They had another prime minister that was a female. And then Brazil also had a female leader. And there are countries that have female leaders. And
I came from a country we have female leader. In Bangladesh, our prime minister, even the opposition leader is also female. You know what I mean?
Oh, really? And so so you said that there is a lot of inequality in Bangladesh towards gender inequality. So how come there's 2 very strong female leaders? Like what is happening?
That's a challenge, right? Because it's very difficult to not necessarily if you have a female leader, you're gonna bring in equality, because you have to still change the men, the mentality of the men in the country. The country is improving. Bangladesh is improving significantly in terms of giving respect. The new generation that we have, we are teaching the kids how to respect women. You know what I mean?
Okay, but yesterday I had a podcast in which we talk leadership. We talk about leadership.
Yeah.
And this guy is an expert.
Yeah.
And basically, one of the things he said, and he tried to make it really clear, is that leaders are put in there by the people, right? And
exactly.
He also said that no politician is a leader, because politicians are running for office. But let's assume that these politicians that we're talking about in Bangladesh are actually true leaders. So there's a lot of men in Bangladesh. How come they're getting all these votes then, if they're not respecting women?
No, it's there is respect for women, but the numbers are very, very less. You know what I mean? Of people who are like, it's not even closer to parity over there. So, but things are improving. What I'm trying to say, that maybe they did not have any choice. Look at the US. People had a choice to choose between President Trump and Hillary Clinton. You know what I mean? And so people then went for Trump. Right? So I'm not gonna say anything because it's a podcast, and whether I like it or not anyway. But if you go to Bangladesh, I just told you that our leader is Prime Minister is Sheikh Hasina from the leading party of Awami League. And the opposition also have the leader who is woman. So people did not have to choose between male and female. You know what I mean? But I can guarantee this to you. If the opposition was a male, they probably would have gone for that.
So you think the parties are both trying to push for women in leadership?
Yes. And I'm very worried that these two ladies that are really old right now. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So what's going to happen if they leave?
Yeah.
I'm very worried. Yeah.
For sure.
The best example of women leadership and how things can change and how tough they can be if they need to be. They have high empathy, but they can be tough when needed. Look at our moms too, right? They have a high level of empathy, but they know what to do when we screw up things.
Yeah. Well, and if there's a threat to you as a kid, right?
Yeah.
They'll fight for you.
Maybe that before even dad, right? I have a kid too, but I can say this: before dad, the mom will run to save you. You know what I mean? So look at New Zealand. The mom will
run to safety?
No, mom will run to save you.
Yeah, for sure. They will save you. For sure. They will run to save you.
Before that. There is absolutely no doubt. Look at New Zealand. New Zealand is the best example of how a female leader can change things significantly.
Yeah, because they did really well with coronavirus and
everything. Even I'm following her for over the last since the first time she was elected.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
And she's done great. And I mean, I have huge respect, but I honestly don't understand gender theory very well. And
I also don't. I just know that with observations.
With observations,
with observations. And look, I read papers, economic papers too, right? Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, I don't read books, but I read a lot of papers right? Because they're using objective data, right?
For sure.
So, so even if there's serious level of discrimination all around the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. Like I'm from a country. I'm from Mexico, so I'm from a country where there are a lot of women that have died. And in one of the other podcasts, episode 3, I think we had a feminist that was actually living in Canada, and then her passion is in human rights. So she went back to Mexico to fight for women. It's really impressive what she did.
Oh, amazing! Yeah.
Yeah, and one last question that's a bit technical is. What would you, and I want to bring this back to finance. Let's say that we are young entrepreneurs and we want to start a business. What are the key points financially a person must consider before investing a single penny in a business?
Let me take a personal approach on this, right? What I look at when someone bringing a business pitch to me and asking me to invest, you know? Number one, I look at, does the business have very high fixed expense?
Okay.
If the business have high fixed expense, such as inventory, rent, lease, I'm most likely to say no.
Mm-hmm. So business with variable expenses versus is better.
Better to me. This is what I look at. The
Mm-hmm.
second thing I look at, who are my partners? How passionate they are. Do I need to guide them, or they can guide themselves?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Partners are very, very important unless you are a sole proprietor.
Yeah.
And then third is, they're not chronologically. I'm just saying, it's
Yeah.
not third means it's a third step. It's to see what's your market, how big the market is, and try to quantify it, and to whom you're gonna sell the product,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what value you're adding to the market, and what should be your potential market in terms of numbers,
Okay.
right? I put everything in Excel, believe me or not. People came to me to invest in pizza shop. People came to me to invest in restaurant. Actually, we are going to open one. It's just for COVID-19, we got a little bit behind, even though it kind of contradicted with my first suggestion,
Yeah.
because restaurants have high lease expense,
Yep.
right? But this is why I'm a bit hesitant, but at least I know the market and everything is gonna pay off, right? So
You
anyway,
you may I mean, give us a little bit of the name of the pizza shop so that people can go and visit. You can
no, it's
you
not
put
my
a
pizza
little
shop. People came
ad.
to me. I never invested.
Oh, you didn't invest on this one?
No, it's just someone came to me whether they should invest or not. You know,
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah, I think it's called Four Brothers or something in downtown,
Okay. Okay, cool.
right? And they're thinking like whether they should pay the money to acquire it. So I put
Uh-huh.
everything in terms of numbers to see how was the people around. Do you have any other pizza shops around and everything? That's my point number 4. Know your competition very, very well. See what they are doing
Mhm.
and see how you can do better. Learn from them. Take your time. Don't just hastily invest right away.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
And that I think that's probably the hardest part, right? To
Yeah,
properly plan on some how to beat the
exactly. So these
competition.
4, as long as you can do these 4, uh, these should be the steps and the things you should look at.
That's great. Yeah, I have had my fair share of experience with startups, and I think
Yeah.
I agree with you. These 4
Oh,
points are very
oh,
important.
Miguel, I forgot to tell another one, number 5. Don't be
Oh,
afraid to fail.
don't be
Okay.
afraid of what?
Don't be afraid of failing.
That's important. Yeah.
Very, very important, because look, I was involved in at least, and I used to invest in companies or as an entrepreneur since undergrad.
Okay.
Right? I used to tutor a lot when I was in undergrad, and I used to lose them in businesses. you know, lose the money that I
Uh,
used to earn from tutoring in different businesses.
And did you ever make like a good hit with those businesses that you invested on?
Recently, I did, right, when I learned more. But do you know, this is kind of funny. The
Yeah.
businesses that failed, where I failed,
Mm-hmm.
I've learned significantly more from those businesses versus the one that have done well. Because if
For sure.
something goes very, very well, you don't really ask a question why it's going well. But if
Mhm.
something goes wrong, you ask a question why it went wrong.
Yeah.
I never call them failure. I never call them losses. I call them tuition fee.
Yeah. Learning experiences.
Exactly. So instead of doing an MBA and paying $100,000, how about you invest in 50-50 in 2 different business,
Yeah.
right? And learn from that. You learn significantly more than what you'd learn in an MBA.
Yeah, I agree. So you mentioned earlier that we're in a world where machine learning and artificial intelligence are one of the things that are
Yeah.
really driving the world right now, and people should
Yeah.
learn more about them.
Yeah.
So I think if we make an analogy, I mean, machine learning is all about a machine that's stupid and then makes 100 mistakes per second or even more.
Yeah.
and and then they learn, and then they become better than you at
Exactly.
doing
That's how
something,
you
right?
should do this. They fail first, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was telling this yesterday to one of to this other podcast to this other guest, that people are afraid of making mistakes, and I think this comes from Hollywood. I mean,
Yeah.
we're very used to seeing the chosen one, this
Yeah.
person that is perfect and doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah.
And for example, as an example, I'll give you Ray from the Star Wars,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
last trilogy. This girl never made a mistake.
Yeah.
Right?
So that comes from Hollywood. And if you're putting too much weight on those things, because I watch Netflix like crazy, believe me or not.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I watch them for entertainment purposes. This is the same reason I do not read books of personal life of other people. You know what I mean? There is, though this guy is successful, I understand, but I don't live the same life that he lives. So how the hell I can apply his theory into mine?
Yeah. And
Right?
that person is an outlier, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I've read some stuff here and there, but mostly excerpts. Like, okay, like it's a 100-page book. I'm not going to read this. Tell me this in 2 page. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Then I read that. I
Yeah.
use this app club called, you can probably also try and tell your people to who are listening to this podcast. I think it's called Blinkist.
Yeah, Blinkist. Yeah.
Yeah. You
And
can
they
just
summarize the books, right?
they summarize the book in very condensed form, but why the hell I will spend a lot of time on these books?
For sure. I agree with you. I wanted to ask you about a company called Mocha. Are you familiar with it?
No, let me see. What do they do?
They help millennials manage their finances better. So let me tell you the spelling. It's a bit funny. It is Mocha, Maka, I think. Or yeah, Mocha is Moka. Sorry, Moka.
Okay. I've never heard of this, but yeah, it looks like an app. Helps people to achieve their financial goal. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And then basically they round up every investment, or not every investment, every purchase on your credit card, or even every purchase on your debit card, and then they put the remaining on a mutual fund.
I've seen this company presenting their pitch in Shark Tank.
Yeah, in Dragon's Den, right?
In Dragon's Den or Shark Tank. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember. I've watched almost all episodes of Dragon's Den
Yeah,
and Shark Tank.
it is really interesting, and
it is.
They had another name. I think they rebranded recently, and basically, I'm very into fintech. The financial technologies, and I think it comes a lot from this theory of democratization of finances, because before we only saw a big bank, a big institution that manages your money, right? But right now you can see these people. I mean, they are millennials, and they found a product that solves a problem for them, and they just made it available to everybody who is in the same boat as them. So that's something I'm really interested, and I'm really excited to see more of the development of fintech. And I'm really hoping that it really helps not only millennials, but also elders and other people, right, to be able to live a better financial life. And one last personal question: what are the 5 pieces of advice that you will give yourself when you were 18 years old?
Yeah, I was really thinking about those things. What advices should I give myself? Because one thing I'm really worried in my life about my life, Miguel, is that I did not fail too much in my life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I should have failed more. I failed in businesses, some businesses where I learned, like I gave you an example. But I think I should have failed more, because when I lost my dad in 2017, it gave me a lot of anxiety. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could not cope up with this. I still see him around me, right? So because I've never experienced too much of trauma in my life, you know what I mean? Right? So that's why I had to really think what advice I should give tell myself when I was 18. Is that first one is expect anything can happen, right? Your life is not a bed of roses, right? Anything can happen to you at any moment. You can lose anyone in your family at any point in time, right? So that's why we need to do more. Number one suggestion: give away more, help others, and spend more time with your family. That's my number one suggestion. This is what I would tell if I were 18-year old.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, the other one would be the thing that I said at the beginning of today's podcast: is delay the instant gratification as much as you can and save more. Okay. I've done this quite a bit, but at the same time, I've spent money on things I shouldn't have,
Yep.
So, and then another thing which is going to be very, very useful, Miguel, you'll also like it. One suggestion I would tell if I were an 18-year-old to myself is that your first job doesn't have to be in a big farm. Okay, you learn more in smaller farms because they will make you work and you learn from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And big farm I'm not going to mention any farm's name. And in a big farm, you'll in the first 6-7 months, you'll probably just be doing photocopying, printing, etc.
Yeah.
Making PowerPoint presentation and stuff. But if you had a small boutique farm, they will make you work hard because they don't have manpower. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then I would say, let's think about it. I think I mentioned that before already. Practice self-control. Do not wait for others to tell you what's important and what's not. Right? I've done this when I was younger. I wish I didn't do this. Right? I took suggestion from people who are significantly smarter than me. Right? But I've also tried to take suggestion people who are not smarter than me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People try to poach my money too in so many ways. There are people who called me, messaged me several times to invest with them, to buy product from them. And I knew that not necessarily all of them had good intention. So practice self-control. Okay. And finally, which I've recently learned, I wish I've learned this when I was 18-year-old, you need to live a healthy life, right?
Yeah.
One way you can do this, which is the way I'm managing it, is invest time in a physical sports that you love and play at least once a week to keep yourself going.
Like cricket, for example.
Right? And you will automatically focus on your health. Because what happens, if you're not very athletic, you will see people, let's say you're playing soccer. I also play soccer. That's my second one, right? But I'm not really good at it. I'm terrible. The 22 player, I'm the 22nd one over there. I'm terrible. You know what I mean? But I saw that my team are losing and people are, because I'm a teacher, they don't really give me too much push around. You know what I mean? But I understand. I can see their face. They're like, "Oh, I wish this guy was not in my team." You know what I mean? But don't. I mean, what that made me do? It made me improve my health. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. For the last 9 to and a year, I've lost about 30 pounds. I'm mostly fat, maybe.
Really? Wow.
Mostly fat. And
I haven't seen you in a while. I would like to see how you look.
I've gained strength significantly. You probably won't even recognize me now.
Really? Wow.
Right? I have a personal trainer now. He's amazing. He's changed my life significantly.
Yeah, nice.
So look, personal trainers are expensive, you know that, but it's an investment I'm making on my health instead of putting the money in another company. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is what I would recommend to every single individual. Live a healthy life. Right now, I feel so much better because when I lost my father, I got into anxiety and that was ruining everything, relationships and stuff.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But then now because when you have energy, when you live a healthy life, right, then you can handle anything in your life.
For sure. And well, I thank you so much for these 5 pieces of advice. And I mean, I'm pretty sure it will help everybody to, do great in their lives. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I know that you have a lot of appointments and you have a lot of meetings today, and I really appreciate that. I hope we can keep in touch, and hopefully there's another episode that you can come and talk to my business.
Anytime. Just let me know how can I help. I'll come and talk. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Emrul. Have a great day and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.